My own daughter-in-law looked me dead in the eye at my kitchen table, surrounded by her girlfriends, and said, "That old lady's basically our personal ATM. Good thing she's still breathing so we don't have to get real jobs." And my son, my sweet only child, laughed so hard he nearly choked on his iced latte. I stood there frozen, holding the coffee pot like a weapon I was too stunned to use, while everyone else giggled like I was the punchline of some cruel inside joke. What she didn't know, what none of them knew, was that in that exact moment, something inside me snapped clean in two, and the woman they'd been using for a decade finally woke up. 2 days ago, I was still the same 67-year-old widow living in a tidy little ranch house in Grove City, just outside Columbus, Ohio. The kind of neighborhood where everyone waves but nobody really knows your struggles. I'd spent the last 12 years since my husband passed raising my son Ryan, then bankrolling him and his wife Lauren after they got married. I never complained. I told myself that's what mothers do. I told myself love means sacrifice. But love doesn't look like being mocked in your own home while you're still breathing. Before I go any further, huge thank you for being here. If you're new to the channel, please hit that like button and subscribe if you genuinely enjoy the content. Alright, now let me tell you what really went down. It started small, the way these things always do. Ryan lost his marketing job right after the wedding downsizing, they said. I covered their rent in that cute little duplex in German village for 9 months straight. 1,050 a month. I pulled it from the savings. I'd built over 30 years of teaching third grade and working summers at the library. Lauren wanted to look the part while she job hunted. So I paid for her new wardrobe, $2,800 on my credit card. She got hired at a boutique PR firm downtown, but somehow the clothes kept coming. Vacations followed. A long weekend in Nashville because we needed a break from all the stress, $4,200. Another week in Charleston, South Carolina, romantic getaway. Mom, you understand, right? Another 6,100 yuan. I understood. I always understood. I stayed home, watered the plants, paid the bills, and told myself I was investing in their future. 3 months ago, Lauren decided they needed a new SUV. The old sedan's embarrassing. "Eleanor," she said in that honey-sweet voice she used when she wanted something big. "Plus, we're talking about starting a family soon. We need something safe, down payment, $18,000. I handed it over because family comes first. I told myself that was the last time. I told myself that so many times I stopped believing it. Then came last Saturday. Lauren had 3 of her work friends over sharp, loud, perfectly manicured women who always looked like they stepped out of an Instagram reel. I'd made a big pot of coffee and set out the good mugs because I still wanted to be the welcoming mother-in-law. They were laughing about something on one of their phones when Lauren leaned back in her chair, glanced at me like I was furniture, and said it. "That old lady's basically our personal ATM. Good thing she's still breathing so we don't have to get real jobs." The room exploded in laughter. Ryan, who was scrolling on his phone in the living room, actually snorted and called out, "Babe, you're savage." I felt the heat rush up my neck, but I didn't move. I just stood there, coffee pot trembling in my hand, watching my son laugh at the woman who raised him, watching the woman he married reduce me to a joke, watching her friends nod like it was the funniest, most relatable thing they'd ever heard. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I set the pot down very carefully, walked to the laundry room, closed the door, and stood in the dark for a long minute. My heart was hammering so hard I thought it might crack a rib. But underneath the hurt was something colder, clearer, rage. Not the hot, messy kind, the quiet, surgical kind, the kind that makes decisions. That night I couldn't sleep. Around 2:30 a.m. I got up, sat at the kitchen table in my robe, and opened my laptop. I started with the credit cards. 5 of them had Lauren and Ryan listed as authorized users. I removed every single one. Then I logged into the joint savings account I'd set up years ago for emergencies. I transferred every penny into a new account in only my name. I changed passwords, turned on 2-factor authentication, removed their phone numbers from recovery options. By 5:45 a.m., I was done. I made a fresh pot of coffee, sat in my favorite chair by the window, and watched the sun come up over the quiet street. For the first time in years, the house felt like mine again. The call came at 11:17 a.m. Ryan's name flashed on the screen. I let it ring 4 times before I answered, just to feel the power of choosing when I was ready. Mom, what the hell? All the cards are declined. We're at the Guild House with Lauren's mom for her birthday brunch. None of them work. The waiter's standing here staring at us like we're trying to dine and dash. People are taking pictures. What is going on? I could hear the clink of silverware, the low murmur of other tables. Lauren in the background hissing, Ryan, do something. I pictured the scene perfectly. The trendy downtown spot they loved to post about. The one I'd paid for countless times without ever being invited. Good morning, Ryan, I said, calm as pond water. The cards are declined because I decided I'm no longer financing your lifestyle. Silence. Then a sharp inhale. What? Mom, are you serious? Lauren's mom is here. She's paying right now and she looks furious. You can't do this. I already did, sweetheart. Yesterday I heard your wife call me a walking wallet in front of a room full of people. I heard you laugh. I've spent 12 years pretending that was love. Turns out it was just convenience. Mom, that was a joke. You know how Lauren gets when she's with her friends? She's just being dramatic. Come on, reactivate the cards. Just for today. We'll talk about everything later, I promise. I laughed. It sounded foreign, bitter, but strong. Do you know how many just for today's I've heard in 12 years? How many promises that never turn into action? No more, Ryan. You're 34. You have a degree, a job, a wife. Figure it out. I heard Lauren snatch the phone. Eleanor, this is insane. You're humiliating us in front of my mother. She had to pull out her purse like some charity kid. Everyone's staring. Do you know what this looks like? I know exactly what it looks like, I said. It looks like the same thing. I've looked like for years someone who's only valuable when the bill arrives. Enjoy your brunch. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from adrenaline, from finally saying no and meaning it. The phone kept ringing, Ryan. Lauren, then Lauren's mother, Brenda, then my sister in Dayton, who'd clearly gotten the dramatic version already. I silenced every call and went to sit on the back porch with my coffee. The birds were singing. The neighbor's dog was barking at a squirrel. Ordinary sounds, peaceful sounds. I hadn't noticed them in years. At 1:40 p.m., tires screeched into my driveway. 2 car doors slammed. Heavy footsteps. Then pounding on the front door. Mom, open up. We need to talk now. Ryan's voice, a bit angrier than I'd ever heard it. I stayed on the porch, hidden by the tall hydrangeas, watching a cardinal hop along the fence. They banged again. Lauren's voice joined in, sharp and high. Eleonora, stop being childish. Open this door. You made us look like idiots. My mother had to pay my 71-year-old mother. Do you have any idea how embarrassing that was? I almost laughed out loud. Embarrassing. The word tasted like justice. They argued in furious whispers for a few minutes, then tried the sweet approach. Mom, Ryan called, softer now. I get that you're upset. Lauren explained what she said, and yep, it was out of line. But cutting us off cold like this? That's not you. You're not cruel. Cruel. The word landed like a slap. After 12 years of silence, of sacrifice, of eating ramen so they could order sushi, I was cruel for wanting to keep the money I earned. I stayed quiet. Eventually, the banging stopped. Car doors slammed again. Engine revved. They left. But I knew it wasn't over. Not by a long shot. That afternoon, my phone lit up with unknown numbers. Brenda, first polite but icy. Then my sister again, worried. I was having some kind of episode. Then a cousin I hadn't spoken to in years. The story was spreading fast. Carefully edited so I sounded unhinged, and they sounded like helpless victims. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I opened my laptop again and pulled up every bank statement from the last 5 years. I started adding rent payments, car payments, vacations, clothes, subscriptions. I didn't even know they had premium streaming. Boutique fitness classes, meal delivery kits. The total climbed past $94,000, almost $100,000, more than half my retirement nest egg. Money I'd earned grading papers at mid went out, chaperoning field trips in the snow, skipping my own vacations so they could have theirs. I stared at the number until it blurred. Then I opened my will. Ryan was the sole beneficiary. House, savings, investments, everything. I'd written it when I still believed gratitude was coming. I closed the laptop, walked to the kitchen, and poured another cup of coffee. Tomorrow I would call my lawyer. Tomorrow I would start rewriting everything. But tonight I was going to sit on my porch, listen to the crickets, and feel what it was like to choose myself for once. And that, my friends, was only the beginning. The next morning, Monday, I woke up feeling lighter than I had in years. No, not in my stomach wondering who'd call asking for money. No mental math running in the background about how much I could spare this month. Just me, my house, my coffee, and the quiet decision that today was for Eleanor. I called my lawyer first thing. Mr. Hayes had handled my will since my husband passed, and he didn't sound the least bit surprised when I told him what I wanted. Eleanor, he said gently, I've seen this more times than I can count. Family members who think retirement savings are community property. We can rewrite it today, if you'd like. Charitable trusts, a portion to your sister in Dayton. Maybe a small conditional share for Ryan tied to proof of independence. Sound about right? Exactly right, I told him. I'm not cutting him out of spite. I just want him to learn what it feels like to stand on his own feet before he inherits anything. We scheduled the appointment for Wednesday afternoon. Then I called the bank, spoke to the branch manager I'd known for 15 years, and locked everything down tighter than Fort Knox. New passwords, alerts on every transaction. No more shared access of any kind. She didn't bat an eye. Happens more than you'd think with adult kids, she said. You're doing the smart thing. By noon, I was sitting at a little cafe on High Street in Worthington. One I'd always driven past but never stopped. Eating a warm croissant and reading a paperback without once checking my phone for emergencies that weren't mine. It felt almost sinful, almost. Then the text started. First, Ryan. Mom, please. Insurance is due tomorrow. $280. I don't have it. If it lapses, I can't drive to work. I'm begging you. Then Lauren. Eleanor, this isn't fair. We're trying to build a life. You're punishing us for one stupid comment. My mom's still upset about having to pay. Can we just talk? I didn't reply. Around 3 o'clock, the doorbell rang. I peeked through the blinds and saw Ryan standing there alone. No, Lauren. No attitude, just him looking smaller than I'd seen him since he was a teenager. Dark circles under his eyes. Shirt wrinkled. He looked lost. I opened the door. Mom, he started, voice cracking. I'm not here to fight. I need to understand. What changed? You've always helped. Always. Why stop now? I stepped aside and let him in. We sat at the kitchen table, the same table where Lauren had delivered her punchline 2 days earlier. Because I finally heard what you both really think of me, I said. And because I'm tired of pretending it doesn't hurt. 12 years. Ryan, 12 years of me eating peanut butter sandwiches so you two could eat steak. 12 years of me staying home so you could go to Charleston and post sunset pictures I wasn't in. 12 years of being invisible until the next bill came. He stared at the table. I didn't see it like that. Of course you didn't. You weren't supposed to. That's how it works when someone keeps saying yes. Tears welled up in his eyes. Real ones. Not the crocodile kind he used when he wanted something. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Lauren's sorry too. We'd talked all night after the restaurant. We looked at our accounts actually. Looked and we're spending almost twice what we make. We've been living like we're rich because you were always there to make up the difference. I nodded slowly. And now we're scared. Really scared. But maybe that's what we needed. We sat in silence for a long time. Then he asked the question I'd been waiting for. What do we have to do to fix this? Not of the money, the us, the family. I took a breath. You start by living like adults. Make a budget. Stick to it. Move to a cheaper place if you have to. Cancel the subscriptions you don't need. Get a second job if necessary. Prove to yourself and to me that you can stand on your own. Then maybe we can rebuild something real. Something that isn't based on what's in my checking account. He wiped his face with his sleeve. I got a personal loan for the insurance. It's not ideal, but it buys us time. And we're looking at apartments in Hilliard smaller. But si by me and less a month. Lauren's picking up weekend shifts at the PR firm's event side. It's humbling. I felt something loosen in my chest. Not at forgiveness, not yet, but possibility. That's a start, I said. Keep going. He left after hugging me longer than he had in years. No promises of money. Just a quiet, I love you, Mom. I'm going to show you I mean it. The rest of the week felt like turning a page in a book. I'd been stuck rereading for too long. Wednesday, I met with Mr. Hayes and set up the new will 40% to women's shelters in Columbus, 30% to my sister, who never once asked me for a dime, 20% to Ryan, but only after 2 full years of documented financial independence. The last 10% I left flexible, to be adjusted later if he proved the change was real. Thursday, my neighbor, Diane, stopped by with a bottle of Pinot Grigio and a knowing smile. She'd heard the shouting, seen the cars, pieced it together. We sat on the porch and I told her everything. She listened, nodded, then said the words that stuck. You didn't lose your family, Eleanor. You lost a role you were never meant to play forever. The mom at TM. Now you get to be just Mom or Eleanor, whomever you want to be. Friday, I booked a 4-day river cruise out of Cincinnati with Diane. Nothing. Fancy, just the two of us. A cabin with a view, meals included, and no one to bail out. Lil by Arsha each. A fraction of what I'd handed over for their last romantic getaway. I bought new walking shoes and a sundress I didn't need but wanted. Small rebellions, sweet ones. When I got back Sunday night, my phone had messages, not demands, but check-ins. Ryan, hope the cruise was amazing. Safe travels. Call when you're home. Lauren, we moved this weekend. Boxes everywhere, but it feels honest. Can't wait to hear about your trip. I smiled at the screen, not because everything was fixed. It wasn't. Trust takes time. But because for the first time in over a decade, they were talking to me like a person, not a resource. A few weeks later, we had Sunday lunch at my place. They brought groceries, nothing extravagant. Just chicken, salad, a store-bought cake. We cooked together, laughed a little, talked about budgets and job stress, and how weird it felt to say no to takeout every night. Ryan admitted he'd started listening to a financial podcast. Lauren showed me the spreadsheet she'd made. It wasn't perfect. There were still tense moments, still old habits trying to creep back. But they were trying. And me? I started a small women's coffee group at the library once a month. We talk about money, boundaries, health, the menopause fog nobody warned us about, the quiet loneliness that creeps in after the kids move out and the husband's gone. We share tips, how to negotiate with insurance companies, free yoga classes at the rec center, apps for finding local women to walk with. I tell them my story when it feels right, not to shame anyone, to remind us we're allowed to choose ourselves. Because here's what I've learned after 67 years on this earth. Love isn't endless sacrifice. It's mutual respect. It's saying, I'll help you when I can, but I won't drown so you can float. It's knowing your worth doesn't disappear. When the bank balance stops being communal property, it's understanding that real family doesn't keep score, but they also don't keep scoreboards hidden in the dark. I still love my son. I still hope for Lauren to grow into the woman she's capable of being. But I love me too. And that love, it's non-negotiable. So if you're out there listening, nodding along with tears in your eyes or fire in your chest, know this, you're allowed to close the wallet. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to live the rest of your days like they belong to you, because they do. Thank you for sitting with me through all of it. Drop a comment if any part of this hit home. Tell me what boundary you're thinking about setting, or what small thing you did for yourself this week. I read every single one and I'm cheering for you.